Well, I've seen some photos. They also have Iranian and Ukraine's NATO facility.
And we are live and alive.
Yeah, thank God.
Thank God. No B-2 bomber shoot anything on Putin's head. That's a good start. Harry Johnson, my good friend, how are you doing?
It's Tuesday. Must be the Italia Brazil hour or half hour.
Half hour,
Or
yeah.
45 minutes, whatever.
Yeah, man, we had a very interesting weekend and week start, by the way. You know, we ended with a good Trump Putin meeting on Friday and with funny to say the minimum about the Monday meeting between Trump and you know the European, whatever you can call it. I don't know if
Well, what I
leader is
call it, I
word
call
for
it Zelensky and his European pimps.
that. That's perfect. I was just reading your Sonnet 21. I thought that was
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Zelensky's like this sex trafficked hostage, and these Europeans keep putting him out on the street. Man, go out and make your money. Get us paid.
exactly.
You know,
And-
it's a lot of depravity involved.
Yes, yes. It's actually a bit sad to watch that.
Oh yeah,
Le- Yeah, but let's start with well, Friday. We met last Tuesday, so we didn't had the chance yet to talk about Friday's meeting.
right.
We had low expectations, perfectly pointed by yourself, as usual, as always, not usual, always.
Always, yeah.
And I think we didn't get disappointed. That was an average meeting. What are your takings on that?
Well, it was. You could see that the relationship that Trump was not faking his pleasure at seeing Putin, and similarly, Putin's, was happy that finally they're back talking to the Americans. Because I remember when I was in Moscow in December of 2023. Good Lord, now 2 years ago, and I was talking to the deputy foreign minister Sergei Rybkov, and he was saying we don't have anybody to talk to. He said the normal diplomatic channels are completely broken down, so there's no dialogue. There's no attempts to explain to each other what's going on. So from that standpoint, this was clearly reigniting that part of the relationship. Doesn't mean that it's solved, but at least it's open. Trump, I believe, is sincere in wanting to achieve a peace agreement to bring a war to an end in Ukraine. But the problem is Trump still doesn't understand the causes of it. He still thinks, he still sort of labors under the belief that this is just that Vladimir Putin and Zelensky just don't like each other, and that's why they're fighting. That's why they've gone to war. It's just a clash of personalities. Or, oh, no, this is a territorial dispute. Russia wanted all of Ukraine and can't get it. I mean, that's just all nonsense. It's not true. This is about NATO expansion. This is about Europe and the United States conspiring and working aggressively to ultimately destroy Russia, break it up, peel it off, use it as a club against China. That's where this is headed in the long run. That's what this is all about. Trump still doesn't get that. So he thinks he can, man, if I just get Zelensky and Putin together, they'll talk out their differences. That it's not a personal thing between them. It's not a personality difference. This is about, is NATO going to keep its hands off of Russia? Is NATO going to stop funding military exercises on Russia's border that have Russia as the enemy, as the force that needs to be attacked? That's the issue. And so until that issue is actually resolved, this war is going to continue. I think Trump really believes at least that the Russians might be willing to freeze in place in Kherson and Zaporizhia. Putin doesn't have that option. That is Russian territory now, legally Russian territory. He has to defend it and get control of it, not turn it over to the Ukrainians.
Yeah, one of the things I was reading the readouts. I was watching also the video, but reading the readouts gave me a better perspective. I read it from the Kremlin, but it was pretty much, just transcribing what they were speaking publicly speaking. And one thing that called my attention was that we have the readout from what Putin said to the press, to what Trump said to the press. Both of them there on the standing up, and there was a lot of flattering from Putin towards the United States, or towards the Trump administration. And Trump was, what seemed to me, basically speaking to internal public. Because he said Russia, 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 and Russiagate was not true, and all that, and I was like, did he actually listen or talked about anything? Because this is not what he should be speaking to the world. What do you take from the both of them speaking out to the press, to the world, to listen to them, while Putin was pretty much lecturing, all that very good. We have good conversation. It was amazing, but we have root causes, and we cannot accept freezing without resolution and all that. What were your takes from what they spoke out on that?
You mean the concluding remarks that they made at the very end?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Putin's remarks had been pre-scripted. They were written out in advance. The entire date, I'd written about this before it even happened, suggesting that the reason they were meeting in Alaska on August 15th was this marked the 80th anniversary of the end of the war in the Pacific. And Russia, or then Soviet Union, had fulfilled its promise to the United States to enter Manchuria, and rapidly defeated Japanese forces. And it was actually probably the predominant factor was the Russian entry into the war against Japan, left Japan with no option but to surrender. I know that General Douglas MacArthur, Army Air Corps General Hap Arnold, another Air Force, or it was Army Air Corps back then, Curtis LeMay, General Dwight David Eisenhower, all of them wrote at the time, and were on the record, that the U.S. didn't need to drop the atomic bombs, because with Russia's intervention and all, the war was coming to an end. So that tie to World War II, when the United States and Russia were partners, was why I think Putin pressed for August 15th in Alaska. And that's why he made a point about talking about how the United States and Russia had collaborated together in fighting against the Nazis in World War II. So that, but he also touched on, his own religious faith. And on both those issues, you got a lot of just ridicule and I guess criticism from a number of U.S. people in the media and pundits. But Putin was saying very clearly what what the issues are. And the fun they didn't come out and air the whole issue about NATO as the root cause, but that's the root cause. And I'm not sure Donald Trump still understands that. He's growing to start understand parts of it, but he still doesn't understand it.
Yeah, it's I found this very interesting. The end the end speech to the media. What about the establishment freak out, man? I read Michael McPhail, just crying that while basically the United States is giving up everything and Russia is not giving anything. Do they understand that this is not an actual, trade negotiation? This is a war trying to come to an end with a victor.
Well, let's say there's nothing wrong with considering it as a trade negotiation, but understand the nature of the damn trade. Do you have anything to trade? Do you have any leverage? The U.S. has no leverage. They much of the U.S. approach is predicated on false beliefs, false assumptions. They genuinely believe that Russia's economy is on the ropes. That, oh my God, it's going to collapse any minute now. Literally believing in a collapse. And I've got there's this.
You just wrote an excellent piece on that as well on sonar21.com.
Yeah, and you saw that through. I quoted at length from a email I received from someone I know. I won't even refer to him as a friend because I don't consider him a friend. I consider him a jackass. But the sentiments and ideas that were presented in it are reflect where a lot of Americans are coming from. So, when I tried to explain to this person, he said, "Oh, the Russian economy, it's a facade. It's a Potemkin village," which means, it's a fake. And I said, "Well, no, you're wrong. I've been there. Oh, Putin's just Putin's fooling you? That Putin managed to persuade 16 million residents of Moscow to put on an act for Larry Johnson? Are you out of your friggin' mind? Good God.
The Truman Show, the Larry Johnson Show.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was, like talking to him about this. Look, Russia in the 1990s, they went through an economic collapse. And even though they went through an economic collapse, the country did not disappear. I think the size of the middle class fell from 45% to 7%. The life expectancy among men fell from 63 to 56, I believe the number was. This was devastating that was going on. And yet, Russia survived that. Well, what great economic problems do they have now? Well, inflation was kicking up last year because they had 4.7% economic growth. And Nabulina, the central banker, started raising interest rates in October and then in November. So the interest rates got to be up to 22%, pretty high. Well, this was a deliberate effort to slow the economy, which it did. And so by June, then she lowered the interest rate from 22 to 21. Then in July, lowered it to 18. And now, and inflation is down to like 9-10%. So we cut it in half. And Russia's economy is growing at a rate of 1.5%, 1.4%. So that's a significant down. However, these same people that say, see, that's evidence of the high inflation. And, oh, yeah, Russia only has 2.2% unemployment. Oh, labor shortage. You can't, I was going, most countries be happy, really happy to only have 2% of their people unemployed. That would say something about the country. But
I don't think any European country has that low of,
no,
of
no,
tax.
no, none do. Um, so then you look at what's the actual economic data for debt to GDP ratio. How much debt? What percentage of your so GDP is what's your economic output for the year? It's like if I said, "Hey, Marcelo, what do you make a year?" And you say, "Oh, I make $100,000 a year." I say, "Oh, good.
I wish.
Well, yeah, so, but we'll go with that. You make $100,000 a year. But then what's your debt? What are you spending money on? Oh, well, it's $105,000 a year I'm spending. Oh, that means you're going to be going in the hole. So I looked into this. There are a total of 8 countries in Europe. You know, France, Germany, England, Portugal, Spain, um, Austria, was it? So, but anyway, it turns out that at least 8 of the countries, in particular France and England, owe in excess of 100%. So the debt to GDP ratio is like 100% compared to Moscow's, which is 19%. Okay. And then when you look at what the economic growth rate is, with the exception of Portugal, who's growing at an annual rate of 1.5%, same as Russia. All of the other countries are growing at 0.6, 0.3, 0.2. In other words, it's stagnant across the board. So what happens to societies when you've got great debt, stagnant economic activity? You're going to have a financial crisis. And in the face of this, they turn around saying that Europe's got to kick in 5% more to NATO, to fund NATO, and that they're going to fund Ukraine. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. The numbers just aren't with them. So that's, there's the failure to take into account the economic side of this.
Yeah, and even Portugal, because if you take the reality on European Union, Portugal is actually a country that receives money from European Union, which means that the countries that provide, which are basically Germany, and then you have France and some other minor like Holland or Belgium, Portugal receives a lot of money, which means that if the major countries go into recession, then there is no money for European Union, and then Portugal is doomed because it doesn't have actually a production line.
You said if they go into recession.
Yeah, I misspoke. I'm sorry.
They are there now. There's just denial, pretending they're pretending that, oh yeah, everything's fine. Everything is not fine. How you can, because on top of this now, these countries that are growing, barely registering any growth in the economy, are now going to have to pay more in money to the United States because of the tariffs. Or with those tariffs will make it less likely that the United States will buy their products because they'll be too expensive, which means less money's coming into it. So they are going, the tariffs have run the potential of kicking off a liquidity crisis. We'll see.
Yeah, I have a friend, a Portuguese analyst. He's awesome. Hugo Dionisio is his name. And he discussed this 5%. And it's very interesting because it's actually, a makeup on the pig. What he claims, and he sees because he works for the syndicate in Portugal, he sees these all over Europe, is that what they are doing is that they are pumping the 5% on the countries for security, but what they are indeed doing is keeping the same spending on security as they were on defense as they were before, but all that budget, now it's going to buy American stuff. And the rest of the budget, what they are doing, is just making up. As for example, I'll give you a very simple example. You have to build a road or pave a road,
Right.
and then you say, well, in case of war, this road needs to be paved because to carry trucks. Sorry, not trucks, tanks. And then you put on defense budget, which should be infrastructure budget, or
Right.
hospital. Oh, this hospital is now going to be working, because they could not justify spending their entire defense budget just to buy American stuff. They would have to produce local, or invest in the army forces. What they're just doing now is just they're pivoting everything to buy American stuff and give to Ukraine. Of course, why not?
Yeah. Well, and they've deindustrialized in many of the nations, so they don't have the plants, factories, trained workers they once had that could do this kind of thing. And also, they're going to buy it from the United States, but excuse me, the U.S. says, "Oh yeah, we'll have that for you in 7 years." So there's
Like
a
the
delay
Patriots.
yeah, exactly, a great delay in being able to deliver on these. So it's just these guys are all living in a dream world. And you saw in the meeting yesterday with Trump, with as I call them, the European pimps. Trump, to his credit, did shut him down pretty quick, because uh, Ursula von der Leyen said it, Rutte said it, Merz said it, Macron said it, Starmer said it. What did they say? Oh, we got to go with a ceasefire first. And Trump basically kept saying, no, we're not even going to do the ceasefire. We're going to get a peace agreement, and out of the peace agreement will come a ceasefire. But the way the West is spending it, and it's being talked about by pundits, they're ignoring what Russia has said very, very clearly and with no ambiguity. The NATO must be taken completely off the table, and they need to back away from Russia. That's first and foremost. This is not about a territorial dispute. They're not looking for more land west of the Dnieper River. This is about ending NATO's activities in the Black Sea and in and around the Caucasus, in the Baltics. NATO, get the hell out. That's Russia's message.
Yeah, since we went to the European pimps, one thing that they also pushed were security guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
And although Trump did not specifically said no nor yes, they are pushing this narrative of security guarantees, security guarantees,
Yeah.
security guarantees. The United States already said that they are not sending anything else. They are just selling. If someone wants to buy and send to Ukraine, not their problem.
Right.
What are these people absolutely delusional, or, as a friend just wrote on the comments here, completely on Lula land?
Yeah. If the British, French, and Germans think that they're going to be able to deploy any military forces into Ukraine, they'll be targeted and killed by Russia. Period. Russia's
Yeah,
not.
the UK is pushing this boots on the ground stuff.
Yeah. They've already had. The Russians already claim that they've killed several foreign mercenaries in different activities, and just as recently as yesterday, they hit a site, a factory in Odessa. So we'll see. Again, the Europeans are talking about doing that, but that's why they focused on their economies. What is their debt to GDP ratio? Well, it's like 100% or more. Well, what's their economic growth rate? Well, the economy's hardly growing. Okay, so where are you going to get the financing for this, let alone the actual material you need? They're delusional. That's why I use that word.
Yeah, exactly, delusional. And also, one thing that called a lot my attention, and I will come to the next question with that, is this Ukrainian children narrative.
Yeah.
They have started to push it very, very hard, Larry. Why do you think they are holding so strongly on this stuff?
Because it's the best propaganda tool for demonizing Russia, even though it's not true. You know, it's the West who's the enabler of these pedophiles and the abuses on children. They just let this one Israeli senior cyber official who had credible charges making him a pedophile. He was allowed just to leave the United States, not held, not picked up, not, So that's going on extensively around the world. And they want to blame Russia or accuse Russia of doing what they're doing in terms of disappearing children and sexually exploiting children. So Russia has been to court, addressed this, and yet it's a propaganda ploy by the West. They continue to use it.
Yeah, but of course it's a propaganda. But I have another question now, which is related to this. And this is something that has been intriguing me for some time. And just the day before yesterday, I had an open house live stream with some other channel friends. And one of them mentioned this, and I said, I've been thinking about this for some time, which is Melania. Usually the first lady, she doesn't have that much of geopolitical interference or participation, and they are putting a lot of spot with in Melania because of the letter that she wrote. These children, how many times Trump have mentioned that, yeah, Melania was watching TV and she told me the horrible thing. Why is this happening? Why do you think this could be happening, Larry? Is Melania being used for something that is not aligned with the White House politics, or is aligned with the White House politics, but we are looking at the different perspective at the White House?
It's clearly aligned with, she's not doing something on her own. And this is, again, let's call it an information operation designed to portray Russia as being an abuser of children, because they know that message resonates in the West, particularly in light of all the revelations coming out by Candace Owens about Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron. So sex pays. It puts butts in the seats.
This is something that it's becoming interesting to watch how many of world leaders have wives, or in Macron's case, I'm not sure if I'm using the right pronoun, but that somehow are used to blackmail or create a scandal, or in this case to push a narrative. It's interesting to look at. Do you know, this is a completely free, out of the box question. Do you know her story? Not Bridget. Well, I think at right now we kind of know.
Yeah.
Melania.
Just I know that she came to the States under a modeling contract and was quite successful.
She was Yugoslavian, right?
Yeah, Serbian.
Slovenian.
Slovenian. Okay, that's right. So, but out of the Balkans. So, when she and Donald Trump met 20 plus years ago, I don't know what had been, what she was doing with her life before that. So, I guess she was only in her mid-20s or 30, only 30 years old or so when she married Donald Trump, I think, somewhere in there. I don't, I don't think she's 60 years of age yet.
No, she's 11 years older than me, so she's 55.
There's 55? Okay.
Okay. So yeah, not too much of a story background.
No.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'll keep my eyes on this subject. I think it's something interesting going on there, but let's see. Let's see.
Well, just trying to apply as much pressure on Putin, because Trump has no leverage. If he had leverage and power, then probably wouldn't need to do that. He doesn't have that.
If all the leverage you have is a letter from Melania, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah, no, but that's an accurate summary, because there's many believe that all he has to do is, and I was listening to some of these news anchors, Putin came to the table because he was terrified that Trump was going to put on these bone-crushing sanctions. No, Vladimir Putin does not care. They recognize that the sanctions are a nuisance at best. Russia is unfazed by the sanctions. The problem is, in the Trump administration, his team, they refuse to see the truth of that, but so be it.
Yeah. So moving a little bit, not pivoting to all the way, but let's move to Ukraine, Larry.
No, let's not. It's a crappy place right now. So
not a place to be. Not a place to be. But also with Ukraine, I would like to understand which we in the end did not talk too vastly about last week, which is the Armenian-Azerbaijani meeting with Trump. Plus, recently Russia has been bombing some of, I think, Aliyev's businesses.
Well, not just Aliyev's business, but the Azerbaijani corporation, SOCAR, which is based in Odessa. And turns out SOCAR has been a major supplier of oil and gas to Israel. So this strike, this was in the past, I think it may have been hit once before, but the Russians have avoided going after Azeri property and interests like this. Now they're sending a very clear message that Ilham Aliyev has overstepped the line. He's made Russia an enemy, and Russia will crush him like a bug if he fights back. So we'll stay tuned. You may have more to talk about later this afternoon.
Oh, really? I'll be tuned on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, since we went to Israel, Larry, what's the situation there? I just saw 10 minutes before we come online that is supposed to have a ceasefire for 90 days between Israel and Gaza.
Yeah, the Hamas has offered one. We'll see if Israel takes it.
Okay, so we're back to offers, and one accepts, the other not accept. Just
Correct.
Keep going.
Correct.
Keep driving the war. That's too bad.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Well, man, I think I have mostly everything for today. Do you think I forgot something? It's always good to ask the specialist.
Yeah, no, we hit all the important points for things people need to think about.
Exactly.
So,
man, so I would like, just before we go, to thank Julio, Carlos, and Ana for super chats that I don't know why did not appear on the screen, but thank guys for supporting the channel. Remember to like, share, subscribe, send on your WhatsApp groups for family. If you have that auntie that sends you good morning with flourish kittens and stuff like that, send to her just to piss her off. And follow Larry on sonar21.com. Don't forget, the best place for information.
Thank you, senor.
Muito obrigado, Larry.
Muito obrigado. Okay.
My friends.
Ciao.
See you next week.
All righty.
Ciao.
Bye.